Hello, Steve White, Steve White's 89. Well, I'm still continuing my Stephen King marathon, and I just watched Hearts in Atlantis, which stars Anthony Hopkins and a very young Anton Yelchin, who I didn't even recognise. I mean, there's something familiar about the kid, and I didn't read the credits at the start because I was doing things. And it's only when I was looking at some information about it, I realised that was Anton Yelchin. Um, so yeah, it's an interesting film. It was part of a odd volume that Stephen King did. He had one big story and three short stories, I think. It was a collection of short stories that were loosely related, all about the Vietnam War and things that happened in the 60s and the boomer generation and the idea that they failed in their potential and so forth. But this is just one story. It's the sort of biggest story in the volume. It's about a guy who goes home for the funeral of a friend, his best friend as a child, who's died in a car accident because he willed him a picture's mint that he wanted when he was younger, but he wouldn't give to him, and he joked that he'd give it to him in his will, and he did. When he returns home, he finds out that his first love has also died a few years before that, and he starts remembering the last summer that he was in the town. That's when he met the Anthony Hopkins character. Now, this guy has psychic abilities, and he's running from, I guess, the government or some group that are trying to exploit his talents. So he hides it for the most part, but he does. He moves into this guy Bobby's house. He's taken on as a boarder because his mother is a widow and she's struggling financially. And he gets him to read the newspaper to him each day for money. And also he wants to form a relationship with the kid so he can get him to help him keep an eye out for these men that are looking for him. So they form a bit of a father-son relationship because the son needs a father figure because his father has died a few years ago, I think 6 years ago. I think he's 11, which means Anton Yelchin would have been about 11. For the most part, it's just the older man just teaching the younger man things, and it's just interesting. It's a nice little drama, but then the paranormal, telekinetic, psychic things kind of sneak out, and for a while Bobby seems to have some sort of ability as well. He's able to read some cards. I better check his name is Bobby, because I'm feeling like that's the wrong name. No, it is Bobby, Robert Bobby Garfield. Eventually his mother is assaulted by someone at work, her boss, and while that's happening while she's away, while the local bullies that they've been dealing with throughout the movie attacks his first love, Carol, and he dislocates her arm, and he takes him home, and Ted, who is the Anthony Hopkins character, helps by popping it back in place. But the mother comes home and she's projecting all her recent trauma onto him and accuses him of abusing her and abusing the girl, and he ends up having to leave. And she actually reports him into these guys somehow, and they come for him and take him away, and he says, as Ted's been taken away, he says he doesn't regret any of it, he wouldn't take any of it back, the time he spent with him and everything. Now in the novel, I know he ends up sending Bobby a envelope full of rose petals to let him know that he's escaped the low men, as he calls them. In the novel, in the movie, I don't think that happens. It just ends with the mother getting a job somewhere else and them leaving the town, him saying goodbye to Carol, giving her a kiss. And then when he's back, he goes to his old house, and some girl comes up to him and says, you should be careful, that place is, dangerous. And he's like, I used to live here. And eventually he works out that that's Carol's daughter, and she works out that that's the boy that, her mother told her about, that she kissed on the Ferris wheel and that. And he gives her a photo of Carol when she was young, and that's pretty much the end of the film. The psychic, paranoid sort of, they're coming to get you parts are interesting. The parts where Anthony Hopkins manipulates people who, like the bully and that, through his psychic abilities is interesting. It's all fairly subtle, but palpable, like the tension and the paranoia and the supernatural, without without really overwhelming the rest of the story. It's mostly about the relationship between the boy and the father figure, and it's just a nice film. I couldn't remember any of it. I bought it on DVD years ago, watched it once, couldn't remember anything except Anthony Hopkins was in it. So it was a nice surprise. It's funny, I've bought so many thousands of films and DVDs over the years, and so many of them I watched once, like the day I bought them, put them away, didn't have time to watch them a second time, 5, 10, 15 years pass, and I can't remember them. So it's like I've got a whole library of films I know are great that I haven't watched, that I can watch, and I know they're going to be good. So I'm having fun revisiting all these old films, and I might keep doing this. I might keep doing my retro reviews. But I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Oh, box office. It came out in 2001, and it made 30.9 million, and it cost 31 million, so not a big hit.